going back to, I know nothing about Grandfather Mitchell's side. We'll go to Grandfather Millet.
There you must stay on that side.
My grandmother, who was a Mitchell.
Yeah.
Now, what did her father do?
He had a shop in the village. He served the ship's chandler, I suppose, with fish.
Food.
He had a fish shop and a fruit and florist and everything else.
And he paid the crew.
And he served
In
the
those days.
deadless.
Get it right now, get this bit over. In those days, Portishead dock was a dock.
Yeah.
And the ships used to come into Portishead, right into Portishead, and they were paid off in Portishead.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
nationalities.
the sailing
ships,
ships.
the sailing ships
Yeah.
used to come into it. And he used to pay them off and feed the ships with the requirements for their
Provision the ships.
Yeah,
Because
he was a proper
Chandler,
chandler.
The Americans carried their wives and children with them. And Mother said it was nothing. He turned up once with a captain and his wife and 5 daughters.
And Chinamen and always.
China and all. They never knew who was coming to dinner.
And I always remember it because I think it's really funny. One aunt was a daredevil and the Chinamen were there. You know, if you grow Chinaman's wings, it's a terrible thing to do. And one of the others dares them. They were paying them off with golden sovereigns in those days. Mother said the table was full of golden sovereigns. You know.
Yeah.
And they dared her to creep in with the Chinese, and she did. And it was terrible. It was a crime almost to do a Chinese. I didn't know.
Did you know
Yeah.
why?
No.
Well, because it's a weapon.
Oh.
The Chinaman's pigtail is his weapon. He uses it for garrote.
Oh. I why it was. I know they said it was the most terrible thing she could possibly have done.
Yeah.
And she was in disgrace for it.
Well, in another time, the captain and his 2 mates were invited. And in the day, they'd been down on the front playing 2 of the aunts. And they met the 2 young men, and they got talking to them and that. And the captain, Grandfather brought his captain and 2 mates up to dinner. And they walked in the room, and there was Aunt Li over there and Aunt Amelia here trying to say, "Don't say you've met us, don't say you've met us." And Grandfather introduced them to Mother and the rest of them, Grandma. And one of them said, "Oh, we have had the pleasure of meeting these 2. And Grandfather said, "Have you? And when were you introduced to them?" "Oh," they said, "we weren't introduced to them. We met them on the front." He said, "Well, I invited you into my house as 2 gentlemen. Now I ask you to leave, please, at once." And they had to go without their dinner. Bit different now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think... Now, have you got anything else there of the
I
Mitchells?
got a lot. How many of the family were born at Hot Wells? Well, all of you.
All of us.
Well, Kathleen was born in that address. Their wedding card was, because they had a fishmonger shop there in Love Street. But Violet was the first to be born in Hotwell's house that was grandmother's. Only Dad had it let off when he got married, you see, when his mother died. And so when he got married to Mother, he bought the fishmongers next to Bert Yates's mother and father, who had a fruit and florist shop. Well, then Mother went down to collect the rent, and Mrs. I forget her name, she said, "However you could live in Love Street, there's such a beautiful house is there." And she got a notice next week to come. And Mother moved in. Now that's where we start from Hotwells, Violet being the first.
In 354.
Yeah. And then
Used to be Charlton House, one Charlton Place.
1 and 2 Cheltenham Place used to be.
Well, that was Cheltenham Place, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We used to be Charlton Place.
Long to Freeland Place.
And that used to be Charlton House, Charlton Place, until the war came. And the post, they made it all
Make it easy for the post women.
It used to be Charlton Place and then St Vincent's Parade.
And it all became hot wells.
Yeah. Now where do you want to go? I was born there 3 years after.
Well, now, what was my grandfather's job? He was head of the rate office.
He was
the valuation.
Valuation officer.
He was valuation officer.
Now his mother. Now we'll go to his mother,
Yeah,
shall
what
we?
was his mother?
Now his mother was a Somerset bag. And you can see that as you go through Yeovil. Upper Bag Farm and Lower Bag Farm all belongs to us. But should do if we could find her birth certificate. Now I got her marriage certificate with Bag on, but I should have her birth certificate. Now there's millions of pounds in Chancery belonging to all us, well, 4 of us, and our descendants if either of us were dead. And also, well, I suppose, more ground than you've got, and farms. And I've been up through those farms, and if I'd spoken to Tony, who was in the bank, his wife, she said she lived at Yeovil, if I'd said, oh, that's where my grandmother comes from, she was Bag, her great aunt started as scullery maid and worked up to housekeeper. She was still alive then, if I'd told her that, and she could have told me the whole family history. And Dolores' mother was born on Lower Bag Farm, and her auntie was born on Upper Bag Farm. And she knew all the history of the Bag family.
Yeah, but my grandfather's mother married a second time, didn't she?
Yeah, Nicholson.
Well, it was her second marriage, wasn't it?
Well, no, she never mentioned, because he married her for, she had a lot of jewellery, you see. And he married her for that, and she found out after, and they never lived together. And so she used her jewellery to buy that property, and she ran the shop. That was in the days when they used to, I showed you the pony and trap they had, used to go to market with. And that was when they used to come and take the waters, royalty and all, from London society.
Yeah.
Well, they saw it there.
Yeah, well, you know the stable at the back.
Yeah.
And that's the story of when we had Nell. Well, did you know that picture?
Well, then we had Nell, you saw with Mother and Dad. The dog.
Nell, when they used to boil the Christmas puddings and boilers.
Now that was in Love Street now, get it right.
I'm not saying where it was, I'm saying what they did.
Well, you can't tell the story if you don't say it properly. The Longs used to be cake makers, and the butcher, and the yard was, they shared, the 3 of them, 3 shops shared the yard, see. And Mrs. Cox was boiling her Christmas pudding, which she boiled a great big one. And Nell had just had 8 pups, and Tom was at the stable with her, and Mrs. Cox went out to see how her pudding was boiling, and there was all the puppies, and Nell and Tom eating her pudding. Tom had got it out the pot. And then when it cooled off, there was all these little dogs. And right up till she died, she'd stop me and she'd say, why didn't they have cameras in those days? It made a wonderful picture.
But those puppies, lost all her puppies, you see, and then lost Nell as well.
A man jealous of him, and kicked him in the mouth, and gangrene set in. And Mother had let a man have all those pups, and they got £5 each for them in those days.
Well, they were sheepdogs, weren't they?
Collie.
Where did Collie go?
She'd evidently been with a thoroughbred. Yeah.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah, £5 each he got, but you gave her £0.5.
She was beautiful. She was beautiful.
Yeah. Now, who else now?
I shouldn't bother too much about that. I should let Anthony go on talking.
anything either. Can you remember your grandparents? Well, this is, you remember your grandparents.
Yeah, well, Grandfather Millet was buried. He died 6 weeks after Dad was born. Grandfather Millet died 6 weeks after Dad was born, aged 26. He's buried up in Clifton Parish Churchyard.
He's only a young man then. What did he do then?
Stonemason.
He was a stonemason, wasn't he?
What did he die from?
Well, I think then, don't you think consumption in those days as stonemasons?
Stonemason.
It's like the miners, isn't it? It's like this asbesto affair now.
Yeah.
And they just died of it then.
Yeah.
Why did he live before marriage? Before his marriage? Where did he live before?
Where he lived when he was married? In the same house.
No, he couldn't.
Well, no, he met, I couldn't go back that far, you see, because he met Dad's mother at Yeovil, and the marriage was forbidden. Well, they ran away and married.
Did you ever meet your grandparents?
Hmm?
Did you ever meet your grandparents?
No, never.
No.
We never had anything. Well, he's more or less, I think, in charge of the fans that go out, you know, that sort of thing. Would she?
Yeah.
What's the name?
My
Your
dad's
name?
Taylor.
He's foreman of transport at
Oh.
South West Coast.
Oh, your father would know him then.
But where did the Brooklands come into it then? They came from up north.
Oh,
yeah.
Up north, I wouldn't know anything about their family
Well,
relations.
you see, Alec met Kathleen when he was on the trip with Abraham.
He was on the tank.
He was
on
on
a
the
cafe. You went in the cafe. She was helping her friend the weekend.
Yeah. That's how they came to meet each other. So you don't know anything about
Don't
the
know
Brooklands
anything
or
about
the...
But they
No.
all went to America.
Yeah.
The old man was. The old man went to America and took the family with him. And they all Alec was the oldest of them. There's only one over here.
Then Albert.
That's Uncle Albert, who's still in North Street.
Yeah.
He was nice.
What
Uncle.
relation is Albert? Or was Albert?
Oh, Albert,
Yeah.
oh, that's my
Uncle
father's
Alec.
brother.
Yeah.
Uncle
So
Albert.
why didn't he go to the States then?
Well, he was
Oh, well,
old as
Well, he was
Oh,
married.
I see.
His daughter's over in Canada.
It's only the younger ones on my father.
But when...
See, I know a bit more about the Brooklands
But you went
than I know
to
about the
America,
Millets.
yeah.
I know my grandparents lived in Millets, because my family more.
You could put this off now then, could you?
Mm.
Because I don't. So, Uncle Ted went up to his mother and he said, "What am I going to do? Dad'll kill me." And he said, she had a bit of money saved and she said, "You better get up and join the household cabaret." That's why that photograph is